Aloha and welcome back to this Stick with the Winners class, which is designed to provide background information and additional facts to go along with our new book, Dick B. and Ken B. Stick with the Winners, How to Conduct More Effective 12-Step Recovery Meetings Using Conference-Approved Literature. This is our fourth video in this series supporting the new book, and I'd now like to reintroduce you to my dad, Dick B. So, Dad, if you would take it away, please.
In the previous films, we have stressed that the healing of alcoholics, or for that matter, healing by the power of God, was nothing new when Alcoholics Anonymous came along. And we pointed way back to the Bible, which said that God heals people, heals all their diseases. We went to the accounts of Jesus and the apostles and how they healed all manner of illness. And now we're going to deal with how that information, which was applied by the Salvation Army, the Young Men's Christian Association, the great evangelists like Dwight Moody, and the Young Men's, if I didn't say it, the Gospel Rescue Missions, and the principles set forth in the Young People's Society of Christian Endeavor. Now, how did that impact and get to AA? Well, the key is the Vermont Youth of Dr. Bob and Bill. The title of this is The Vermont Youth of Dr. Bob and Bill W. Set the Stage for Early AA's Emphasis on God, Jesus Christ, the Bible, Prayer, Conversion, and Witness. One of the virtually lost pieces of old school AA history and practices has been the story of the Christian upbringing of both Robert Smith and Bill Wilson as youngsters in the state of Vermont. Let's keep in mind the facts detailed in 4 of our titles: Dr. Bob of Alcoholics Anonymous, The Conversion of Bill W., the Dick B. Christian Recovery Guide, which is this substantial book that I'm holding up, and finally, the book that we mention so often, Stick with the Winners. First, as to Dr. Bob, period. Dr. Bob's parents, Judge Walter and Susan Smith, were married in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and Dr. Bob was born and raised there. Both parents were married in the aftermath of the Great Awakening of 1875 in St. Johnsbury, which is covered in detail in our book, Dr. Bob of Alcoholics Anonymous. Both parents became strong Congregationalists and very active members of the North Congregational Church of St. Johnsbury. The judge, Bob's father, was a deacon, a Sunday school teacher, and a member of the executive committee. Susan Smith, Bob's mother, was head of the church's educational program, superintendent of the Sunday school, a church historian, and very active in church doing. The entire Smith family, Judge and Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Smith's mother, Dr. Bob, and Bob's foster sister, Amanda Northrup, attended church at least 4 times each week. The parents, the sermons, and the Sunday school teachings were focused on salvation and the Word of God. The parents were involved in and mentioned the Young People's Society of Christian Endeavor of that church, where Bob was active as a youth. The Village Young Men's Christian Association impacted on the life of the Smiths Church, on the life of Judge Smith as president of its St. Johnsbury chapter from 1895 until at least 1897, and on the St. Johnsbury Academy, where Bob studied from 1894 to 1898. Second, there's a special section here reserved for the Vermont academies. These are the Vermont academies which were attended in turn by Bob in his high school years and by Bill in his. Bob's academy was St. Johnsbury Academy. Bill's was Burr and Burton Academy in Manchester, both in Vermont. And these were the Christian elements at each academy. The schools were dominated by Congregational church clergy. Daily chapel, weekly church attendance, and weekly Bible study were required. Bob took Bible courses at his school, and Bill took a 4-year Bible study course at his. As stated, the YMCA was part of the life of Bob and his father and mother, even more so with Bill. For Bill was president of the Young Men's Christian Association at Burr and Burton Academy during his senior year. His lady love, Bertha Bamford, was president of the Young Women's Christian Association, and both Bill and Bertha participated in school-wide functions. Now back to Bill. As to his upbringing, Wilson's parents and their parents on each side were very much involved in the little East Dorset Congregational Church, which lay between the homes of Bill's parents, the Wilsons, and the parents of Bill's wife, Emily, the Griffiths. Bill remembered sermons, revivals, conversion meetings, and temperance meetings there. The Wilson family had been among the founders and officers of the church. They owned Pew 15. They held office, they made contributions, and they attended. Bill's parents were married in the East Dorset Congregational Church. Bill's paternal grandfather, Willie C. Wilson, had been a long-suffering alcoholic. But Willie ascended nearby Mount Aeolus one day. He cried out to God for help. He was enveloped by a wind and a strong light, became saved, and was cured. He rushed to the pulpit of the little church, announced that he'd been saved, and he never drank again for the rest of his life. Bill went to church and school in East Dorset, but his parents moved and separated, and left Bill with Grandpa Fayette and Grandma Ella Griffith to be raised by them. The Griffiths and Emily Griffith, Bill's mother, regarded the East Dorset Congregational Church as their family church. They attended, and then Bill attended with them and was enrolled in the Sunday school. We have visited, and when I say we, I mean Ken and myself, who spent a lot of time researching this in Vermont. We attended that church, reviewed its records, saw Pew 15 owned by the Wilsons, saw the Sunday school location, reviewed the sermons and creed and confession, and spoke at some length with the longtime member and treasurer who is a volunteer today at the Wilson House in East Dorset, Vermont. While Bill was living with Griffith grandparents, Bill read the Bible with his grandfather and also with his friend Mark Whalen. And then he was enrolled in Burr and Burton Academy at nearby Manchester, Vermont. Robert Smith and William G. Wilson, during the course of their upbringing in Vermont, had parents who were Christians, they were raised Christians, they attended Christian churches and Sunday school, they were familiar with conversions, temperance activities, revivals, prayer meetings, sermons, creeds, and confessions, studied the Bible, participated in daily chapel, and required Bible study in school. They were involved with the Young Men's Christian Association, and in Bob's particular case, there was substantial participation in the Young People's Society of Christian Endeavor of his church.